So I'm going to switch to this. Let's draw our light source on the right side again. Okay, and we're going to call this 2-point perspective. Okay, with cubes. I'm using cubes because it has corners. If we use spheres, it would be very easy. A sphere, no matter how you turn a sphere, it looks like a sphere because it's not a shape that has corners. Always date your work. It's very handy. That way you can kind of keep track of when you did something. I'm going to use 2 vanishing points now. So let's put the vanishing points on the very extreme ends of our horizon line. Okay. So I'm going to draw them real big so you can see right here, and right here. So this is what we did when we drew the cube. So if you didn't do it the correct way the first time, you're going to learn again how to draw the cube in 2-point perspective. But this time we're going to draw it on the horizon line, below the horizon line, and above the horizon line, and with the shadows. So this is VP1, and this guy's name is VP2. Okay, vanishing point 1 is on this side, vanishing point 2 is on that side. And we could draw our cube anywhere along here. But the big difference between 1 and 2-point perspective is that we're not looking at the cube from the front, where we can see the whole front face of one of the sides. We're going to draw it from the corner, and that is the difference. That's a big difference. So I want you to put a line right in the middle and make it about 2 inches. Okay, I'm just doing a little rough sketch of a line. And I'm going to take my straight edge and then draw the line neater using my ruler or straight edge. And then if I press really hard and then I erase, the line that I pressed really hard is going to be the only one left, and it'll be nice and neat looking. Put a dot at the top and at the bottom of that line. When we draw things from 2-point perspective, we're looking at something from the corner. And this may feel very familiar to you because when we first drew our first cube and we did the drawing of the forms and the shading exercise the first time with the cube, we drew it from 2-point perspective. But a lot of you did not use vanishing points like I demonstrated. You kind of free-handed it on your own. And so your cubes look like Amazon boxes that had been sitting out in the rain for about a week. Yeah. From these points, okay, I want you to draw some very light lines that go to vanishing point 1 and 2. Okay, these boxes have not been sitting out in the rain for about a week. We're going to draw them nice and straight and crisp and correctly in the correct perspective. Sitting outside in the rain, maybe kick down the stairs a few times, you know. All right, I'll stop. Okay, so you should be getting this kind of long diamond shape with the points extending to the left and the right side. So you have to put a vertical line, 2 more vertical lines. So when you are drawing things in 2-point perspective, the line that you don't draw is you don't draw any horizontal lines besides the horizon line from the start of the drawing. You're just going to use vanishing point lines and vertical lines. That's it. No horizontal lines. So I'm going to put another vertical line right here and then another one right here. Okay, so let's go take our rulers and make those lines a little bit more permanent. Okay. And then erase the horizon line in the middle.
Didn't we do this before with the cube?
Did we do this before? We did, but the cube that we first drew was actually underneath the horizon line.
Oh, yeah.
Because we had to draw the top of it, remember? Now at this, which is a good question, because from this angle, you cannot see the top of the cube, and you can't even see the bottom. You can only see these two sides. So that's what happens when you have something right on the horizon line or eye level. If you hold your ruler or anything right in front of you, right in the center of your point of view where your eyes are, you're neither going to see up and over the top of it, nor be able to see underneath the bottom and see the bottom of something. So that's my point here. We established the source of our light is on the upper right hand side. So let's figure out where the shadow falls. So the shadow should always fall on the opposite side of the light source. So it wouldn't be here on the right side where the sun is. It has to fall somewhere on the left side. So when we draw the shadow for our box here, I want you to use this line right over here, vanishing point 2 line. From here, line up your ruler with this vanishing point 2 and with the bottom of this line, and extend the line out toward the left, like that. I want you to go to the bottom of this line here on the left and draw a little dot right there. Draw a point right at the bottom of that line. Line that up with vanishing point 2 also. And then extend the line outward toward the left. So what you're going to have is, this is the shadow. This is the two lines, the sides of the shadow right here. That's what these two lines create. And the only line that's missing is the top of the shadow. You know, it would be the shape up here reflected down here. So in order to draw and end your shadow, you would use vanishing point 1, this one here, and kind of swing your ruler around until you get like a pleasing shape. If I was to say the sun is pretty low in the sky, like at around 4 o'clock usually now, it gets pretty dark and it starts getting dark and the shadows start getting long, maybe I'll make my shadow end right there. And then I'm going to erase the lines, the extra lines that extend out, because we don't need those. Okay. I'm also going to erase these lines, horizon lines on the inside of my box, because we shouldn't see those. Okay. So now you should be able to see a cube or a box, and you should see its shadow, which is right down here. So I'm going to shade my shadow, and I'm going to press pretty hard here, right at the base of my cube or my box, where the shadow is the darkest, right? It should be the darkest right near the base of your object. And as I'm shading, I'm going to press a little bit less hard, like that, and then press even less hard over here. If you shade and you see this, like the distinct areas of shading, like you see a band of dark value, a band of medium value, and a band of light value, the way that you can get rid of that look, because there's nothing like that in real life, is to create an in-between value to kind of smooth out those bands, that look of having different bands of shading. So create like an in-between value so that they look more gradually blended out. So that's how to do that. And now let's shade the dark side of this cube. So it should be lighter than your cast shadow. I mean, that's not always the case. I mean, you can have an object that's made out of like black plastic, and it could be sitting on a white tablecloth, and then the shadow will be lighter than the actual object. So it kind of depends on the color of the object. Okay, let's shade the light side. So overall, I'm just going to put some light shading on here and not press as hard as I did over here on this side. It's right at eye level, just as if you were holding an object right in front of your eyes. You can neither see the top or the bottom of the object. So let's draw an object below this cube. Let's draw another cube. And let's do something a little bit different. Let's draw it closer to the right side here. So all you have to do is to draw a vertical line. Once again, since we're just viewing this from the corner. So let's always start with a vertical line when we draw a 2-point perspective. Okay. All right. Nice and straight. I want you to draw a little dot at the top of that line and another dot at the bottom of that line. I think I'm going to make the line just a little smaller because I want like different sizes of cubes. Why not? Mix it up a little bit. Get exciting. Okay. So from those dots, I'm going to draw to vanishing point 2. And from here, we're going to draw to vanishing point 2 also. Okay? Let's do that. Okay? And then from those dots also, at the top and bottom of this line, make that line a little darker so you can see. I want you to draw vanishing points that go all the way over here to vanishing point 1. So you might ask yourself, why are we drawing a bunch of cubes and what's the point of all this? Because when we are drawing our inspirational dream interior, a lot of the furniture that you draw can be made with boxes, and then you can just carve out the legs. And a lot of modern furniture is very boxy and very simplistic. You know, it doesn't have that many curves on it, or maybe it's just in the opposite direction, completely curvaceous. It could be a beanbag chair. If you're drawing a beanbag chair, that's totally made up of curves. But a lot of furniture in general, buildings, any kind of man-made object is usually kind of boxy, and you can use the box as the basic form and then just make some changes, cut out some holes and things like that. So it will help you to draw your bed, your dresser, coffee tables, couches. They're all kind of boxes. Okay, so you should have this little V shape here, this chevron. And now the next step would be to draw the 2 parallel vertical lines. Remember, we're not using any horizontal lines, so it's just vanishing point lines that go to these vanishing points like this, and then just the vertical lines. So let's go ahead and draw those vertical lines a little bit more neatly with your ruler or your folded paper ruler. And just hang your head right over the top of the paper so that you get it accurate. Because when you're sitting in front of your paper, you're not seeing your paper like, you know, you're not seeing it full on. You're seeing it from a perspective also. So if you try to draw all the way from back here, let's say I'm sitting like a foot or 2 away, it's not going to be accurate. You got to hang your head right over your paper if you want to make sure that your lines are truly parallel. Okay, so do your best to keep these 3 lines parallel to each other. And then I want you to draw a little dot at the top of the 2 new lines that you just drew. Okay, so I want you to get right over here. And we've been here before. When we drew our cube, we drew it this way, and we drew using vanishing point 1 and vanishing point 1 and 2. If you use vanishing point 1 and 2, you are assured to get the accurate, correct angles to draw your cubes and your boxes. From these points here, I want you to draw to the opposite vanishing point. So this vanishing point, I want you to draw, for this little dot here, connect to vanishing point 1. This little dot here, connect to vanishing point 2 on the opposite side. Okay, if you're going to go into architecture, if you're going to go into industrial design, any kind of design, interior design, you need to know this for those careers. You need to understand perspective and angles and how things should look at different angles and how to represent things from different angles. So now, once we do that, we see the top of the box right here. So what the understanding is, if the cube is below the horizon line over here, you should be able to look up and over the top of the box, and you should represent the top. So let's shade, let's draw the shadow. We forgot to draw the shadow here. So the shadow is going to fall in the same direction. It's going to swing to the lower left. So we are going to use this same line right here that forms the bottom right of the bottom right side of our cube, and just extend it down to the bottom of the paper. I want you to look at this corner right here where this very left hand line ends, and I want you to put a little dot right there where it meets this line over here. Line up that point with vanishing point 2 as well and draw a line out. And that is how to draw the shadow for the small box that's sitting closest to us. And you should be also learning something about perspective this way, that things that are lower on the paper are closer to us. Things that are higher up on the paper are further from us. So that's a big important point as well. In order to draw the top of the shadow, we're going to go over to the opposite vanishing point 1, right over here. And we're going to swing our ruler back and forth until we find a nice pleasing shape. This is a very long shadow. So you know this is going to have to be a long shadow too, because you can't have a short shadow that says it's 12 o'clock in the afternoon, you know, because that's when you get a short shadow, and then a long shadow in the same picture. That's not going to make any sense. So we can do this and just have the corner go off the page. When you have something that goes off the paper, that's not a bad thing, because you feel even more like you're actually standing there and you're a part of the scene. So it makes the drawing a little bit more realistic. You know, if you have things that are kind of cut off, just like when you take a photo of something, you can't get everything in the photo. So some things that are in the foreground will get cut off, so it almost looks more realistic that way. So let's shade this cube. This is going to be the dark side here, because that's the dark side on this cube here. This is going to be, the light side is going to be at the top because the sun's beating down on the box, right? And that's going to be the lightest side. And then this can be your medium value side. So we're going to make our shadow dark and go from dark to light this way. Okay, dark to light. So I just drew some arrows. So we're going to go dark to light. So let's do that. And just cover up the good part of the drawing and erase, run the eraser right along the edge to erase any stray marks. That's just a little trick. And you're using the paper as like a masking tool. It's called masking, when you cover up the good part of the drawing. And to just protect that. Okay.
Miss Hart,
Yes?
my little box don't look like your little box.
Can I see your little box? Let me see.
Hold on.
Okay. For that one, you approached it wrong. You forgot the line, the vertical line in the middle. If you started, yeah. Start out drawing this line right here, this vertical line right here in the middle, and then everything else will fall into place.
Okay.
Okay? But I like the box on the top, and next time, Sydney, hold the paper the long way. I know it's not comfortable holding the sketchbook like that, but it will give you more room for the other boxes. Yeah, that's what happened. You forgot to always start drawing boxes with the line in the center, like that. And then you could draw, you know, the lines that go to the vanishing points, and then you would draw the two other vertical lines, and then you would go and draw, you know, the vanishing point lines. But you got to always start right here with this, with the corner, when you're drawing in 2-point perspective. Okay, so this is, we started this on 12-2. Okay. It's always good to put a date, right? So I can see, you know, if there's any question also of when you finish this, you could say, see, I finished. I mean, you could write any date you want at any time, but it's just good to know when you did something. So we're gonna do the same thing, dark to light. A dark to light fade, and we're also going to make the shadow the darkest thing that is shaded over here. Okay, it's going to be dark. The darkest shading is going to be on the shadow, not on the box. So let's do a little bit of lighter shading with a little less pressure, and then even lighter shading. Sometimes when you're shading, you see this, where you get like these little zones where this is all one shade and this is pretty much one shade, and then you see these kind of like bands. So there is a way of fixing that, and that is to create an in-between value. See how that just now disappeared?
Miss Han, I have a question.
What's your question, honey?
Do we have to do the shadow?
That's a good question. You do have to do the shadow because everything casts a shadow. Yeah. So when you do your project where you draw your dream interior room, you're going to have shadows in there. Because nobody sits in a room that is so completely lit up, there's no shadows. So if there is like a piece of furniture, there's going to be a shadow at least underneath it, because the light is usually on the ceiling, you know, or maybe it's in the corner or something. So yeah, without the shadows, this drawing would not look very realistic at all. And in the presence of light.
Miss Han,
Yes.
the top of the box is going to be the lightest, right? That's right.
So yes. And then the right side is going to be medium. Okay, so clean up your shadows, edges. And then let's get on to shading the box itself down here. I want to maybe make this corner a little darker and try to do transitions in tone at the same time when I'm shading. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do kind of a fade out. Like that. And I'm going to press a little bit harder over here. Okay. So I'm going to do a transition in tone and try to make this corner a little bit darker than this corner over here, but I still need to keep this overall lighter than my shadow. So I think I did that. Now I'm going to go to the medium, and the medium has to be even lighter than this. So this is the light corner. I'm going to start dark right here at this corner, just for contrast, because light meeting dark creates that little sharp, you know, angle change. It gives the appearance of like a nice sharp angle change. So this is where kind of like your grayscale skills kind of come in, just your control of your pencil and how much value you're throwing down on the drawing. And it's not easy, but it just, you know, the more you do it, the better you become. So that's That's the same with everything, but even in drawing. The more you draw, the easier. So now I have a little bit more transition in tone, okay? So now see the difference between something that has a transition in tone and something that doesn't have a transition in tone. And this only has two sides, so it looks simple anyway. So if we put a little transition in tone, that could really make this look better. And we can say that this could be dark here and light here, and it could be a little lighter down here because of reflected light. Okay, that could be the reasoning behind that. So let's put the box that is floating up in the air. Why don't we put that? I want to stay away from this because it's just this is all big and I drew it way too big. Maybe I'll just put it right over here, more on the left side of the paper. And I'll just start with this. I got to start with the corner, right? So I'll just make a small box. Why don't we make a small box? That way it doesn't take us too long to finish this. So it's going to be right here. And it's only about an inch. Okay? And I'm going to draw a little dot at the top and a little dot at the bottom of that line. Okay? Remember, we're only going to use vertical lines for 2-point perspective and vanishing point lines. No horizontal lines in this. So then we take our ruler. And the good thing about a clear ruler is you could see underneath it, right? So that's why I said just get a cheap plastic clear dollar store ruler. They're the best. So from those 2 points, you're going to draw to vanishing point 1, okay? And if you don't have a clear ruler, just use your paper ruler. It will do a good job. Gets the job done. Okay? Just as nice, right? So after you do that, you should draw your 2 vertical lines that are on either side of this center line here. Either side. So, how about I do something like this? Let's make a nice wide box, like a shirt box or something that a coat comes in. It's up to you. If you want to make a small box, that's fine. Now I'm going to double check myself and hover my head over the top of my drawing just to double check if my lines are really parallel. Okay, so now I have this. So I can tell from the angle in this little upside down V shape here that I should be able to see the top or the bottom of that box. So if for this one underneath the horizon line, we saw the top of the box, we should be able to look up and see the bottom of the box here. And so I'm going to draw a little dot at the bottom of the line on the right and a little dot at the bottom of the line on the left. And then we're going to crisscross this way and draw lines to the vanishing point like that. I don't even have to draw all the way there, just enough so that I get the bottom of my box. So using the vanishing points is really helpful, because if I was to try to figure out how to draw those angles and try to figure out how to draw this, what kind of shape it would be, I would probably get it wrong. And using the vanishing point basically assures you success and makes sure that the shape and the perspective is correct. Okay, we're gonna have to figure out what's the lightest side. Now the actual lightest side of the box is over here, but we can't see that side because it's on the other side out of our view. So the next lightest side I would say would be this area. So that's my light side. The dark side is here, and the medium side is down here. because the light can't go, you know, it could kind of go down onto the ground and bounce up a little bit to light that up a little bit with reflected light, but it's not going to be as light as here, which is receiving a little bit more direct light.
And if you drew your box on the right side of the paper instead of the left side, it would still be the same. Like the light side would be the one that's like facing you, and then the dark side would be the opposite direction, and then the medium would be the bottom.
Yeah, it should be the same. Yeah. So let's do that real quick. Let's do a little rough draft of that idea. So I'm just going to do this. So if you did a box on the other side or extreme right, it's going to look like that, right? And then you would draw your vertical lines. Then you would crisscross, right? Crisscross like that. And then you would crisscross from here. All right. So then, yeah, the sun is still right there. So I would say medium, dark. Although if we had this box also drawn, I'm not going to make you guys draw another one. This box would overall be lighter than this box, right? Because it's closer to the light source. Does that make sense, everyone? Just because it's just closer here. Yeah. Yeah, it's like putting an object near a lamp and then having another object, let's say the same cup or whatever, further away from a lamp. It's going to be shaded a little darker. So yeah. So let's go ahead and shade this guy here. This corner can be a little darker, and then as I go outward to this corner, it could lighten up by pressing a little less hard on the pencil. Okay. But I like started out, I think that's smarter to do, is just start out putting some shading down first and then put some more shading on top of that where it goes from dark to light, you know, in the second layer. So the medium side, let's do the medium side. So this is going to be dark to light. Maybe I want to do dark to light here. Since this is light here, I want this to be a little bit darker. So maybe I'll just put like a little bit of a medium tone all over the place and just get it filled in with some shading just all over. Oop, gotta keep an eye on the time here. 1 o'clock. How is this? Is this challenging? Am I moving too fast here?
It's fine. It's just that when I'm doing like the transitions and shades, that's when it takes a little longer for me because I like to clean it up and make it look nice.
Okay. All right. Nice.
Yeah, same for me.
Yeah.
The shadows show me up sometimes.
Yeah. Remember, this is not a masterpiece. This is just an exercise. You know, just make it look kind of decent. Now, this and this look the same. This is the dark side, so now I know, okay, I'm going to have to adjust something. Both of them have transitions in tone, but I'm either going to have to lighten this up a whole lot, or I'm going to have to make this darker. And I opt to make things darker, because I really feel like in a lot of people's drawings, especially in shade where you have to shade, year after year, my students don't put enough shading. All of their drawings are very, very pale and washed out in their shading. And I would rather have something look too dark than to be too light. So contrast, not enough contrast in people's work. And it's really contrast that also makes things more three-dimensional and stand out. Okay, so now we're getting a little darker here. We're getting somewhere here. All right. And don't worry if your piece you think doesn't look like your neighbor's. You can't even see your neighbor anyway. But if you feel like your work is not as good as someone else's, or you feel self-conscious, I'm not comparing your work you know, to anybody else's. I'm just comparing your work to what you did before. Did you get better at drawing? Are you better at shading? And if you're really doing your work should always improve because you're doing more and more practice. Right here, and just go ever so light. Hardly any pressure. Almost white. Almost white. All right, so it's 1 o'clock. I believe that's the end of the period, and today's Thursday. So hopefully, we can get on to 3-point perspective and just finish this up tomorrow. It's not, and if you need more time with this, I could give you a couple more minutes at the beginning of class. All right, everybody have a good afternoon and the rest of your day. I will see you back here tomorrow. These points on the bottom of the cube, I'm going to draw a line and extend a line straight down, and that will help me to draw the shadow. Okay, and we did that before with the cube on the previous page with 1-point perspective. I just want to make sure that my lines are straight down like that. And I'm going to draw also an additional line from this corner here. Don't forget that corner right there. So this is where having a clear plastic ruler helps, because I can't see through this paper ruler. And it just makes it easier to see the other lines underneath. So, like that. So I'm just making my lines extra long. So somewhere along here, I could draw my shadow. But what's to say that this box is not in the back of this one? Why can't it be in front of that one, right? There's nothing that says that it can't be actually in front of this one. So we could actually sneak a shadow right over here in this spot where there's plenty of room. So all we have to do is, in order to draw that shadow, we're going to use vanishing point 2 and see how that will look, and draw a line between these two lines here. So this line here is parallel. It's supposed to be parallel to the back of this box line right over here. Okay, it's parallel to that. I know that it's at a weird angle, but that's the way it looks in correct perspective. So it's not necessarily going to look literally parallel, but they are supposed to be parallel. And then what we're going to do is use vanishing point 1 to draw a line parallel to this. So starting from here, use vanishing point 1, like that. And also from here, this corner, to here, somewhere along this line, let's make that a little longer, we're going to draw a line that's parallel and corresponds to this side of the box. Okay, we're using vanishing point 1. And then finally, to draw the front of that shadow, and that side corresponds to the front of the box right here, this side, we're going to use vanishing point 2. Okay. So we need to just adjust this line and have that meet right here with this line. It's not a perfect formula. I must have made these lines crooked. Yeah, I think my so-called vertical lines aren't perfect, but that's why it's a little off. but that's believable, okay? So now let's erase all of these little vertical guidelines because we don't need them anymore. We just drew them so that we can kind of draw approximately where that shadow should go. And as long as the shadow is believable, you're doing fine. So does that look like it's a shadow cast from that box? Yes, because we use the vanishing points. We extended our lines down. Okay, so I can see that I drew I drew this line crooked. So that's why the shape is a little off. Okay, now that looks a little better. So being neat does make a difference. Now the shadow looks a little wider, just like the box up there. So let's shade the shadow. So why don't we just have it go from dark to light this way, flowing in this direction. Okay, because the light source is right there. So we'll make it dark right on this edge, right along that edge. And then have it go from dark to lighter, like that, okay? Okay, and then just clean up the edges with your eraser. There we go. I'm also just going to clean up my shadow right here. I erased some of my drawing up here. Okay.